Take the same person and hand them a different number in their bank account, and you get a different human being. Same face, same name, same childhood. But the way they walk into a room, the way they sleep, what they fear, who they trust, all of it quietly rewires around the size of the number. Money doesn't just change what you can buy. It changes who you are. And it does it at specific, predictable thresholds you cross without ceremony, becoming a slightly different person each time, whether you meant to or not. This is every level of net worth, from 0 to $100 million. Not the numbers, the person you quietly turn into at each one. And somewhere on this climb is the exact rung you're standing on right now. Let's start where almost everyone starts. 0. Not broke, not in debt. Just 0. You own what you need and nothing that lasts. Your bank account is a river, not a reservoir. Money comes in on payday and is gone before the next one, and the gap between you and a real problem is exactly one missed paycheck wide. At 0, money is pure fear. Every decision runs through one filter. Can I afford this right now? Not is it worth it? Not is it wise? Just right now, today, is there enough? You are not thinking about wealth. Wealth is a word for other people. You are thinking about Thursday, and here is the cruelest part of 0. It is the most expensive place to live. You buy the cheap shoes that fall apart and have to be rebought. You pay the overdraft fee, the late fee, the deposit you lose. You cannot buy in bulk, cannot wait for the sale, cannot fix the small thing before it becomes the big thing. Everything costs more when you have nothing. The world quietly charges a tax for being poor, and almost no one who hasn't lived it believes how heavy that tax is. And it costs you something past money. At 0, your horizon shrinks. You cannot plan 5 years out because you can barely plan 5 days out. The part of the mind that dreams, that schemes, that builds towards something goes quiet because there is no room for it. All your thinking gets pulled into the narrow tunnel of the next bill. People look at someone stuck at 0 and see a lack of ambition. What they're really seeing is a person whose entire mental bandwidth has been bought up by survival, with nothing left over to imagine an exit. That more than the money is the real trap of the bottom. It doesn't just empty your account. It narrows your mind to the size of the emergency. Then one day you cross into $1,000 saved, and it feels like nothing, but something has shifted that you can't quite name. For the first time, there is a small buffer between you and the void. The car brakes, and it's a problem instead of a catastrophe. You can feel, faintly, the first inch of ground under your feet. $1,000 will not change your life. But it changes one thing. The volume of the fear drops just slightly, for the first time you can remember. And you notice how loud it had always been, only now that it's quieter. You climb to $10,000. This is where the psychology makes its first real turn. 10,000 is enough to stop reacting and start choosing. You can leave a job you hate without the world ending. You can say no to your boss, your landlord, a bad deal because you have a few months of room to breathe. $10,000 doesn't buy luxury. It buys the single most underrated thing money can buy, which is the word no. Most people have never felt what it's like to say no from a position of safety. At 10,000, you feel it for the first time, and you never forget it. But you also meet a new enemy here, and it will follow you the rest of the climb. The moment you have a cushion, the world conspires to take it. Now you qualify for the credit card, the car loan, the upgrade. The same buffer that gives you freedom also makes you a target, and most people at 10,000 spend the next years right here, bouncing between a little saved and a little owed, never quite escaping the gravity of the starting line. Watch how it happens, because it's so ordinary you'll recognize it. You hit 10,000 and feel, for the first time, a little safe. And safety, strangely, is what loosens your grip. You think, I've made it this far, I deserve something. And you're right, you do. But the something becomes a nicer car, which becomes a payment, which quietly converts your hard-won buffer back into a monthly obligation. The cushion didn't disappear. You sat on it, got comfortable, and slowly let it deflate. This is the exact spot where most people's wealth story ends. Not in disaster, but in comfort. They climb to the first ledge, feel safe enough to stop climbing, and spend the rest of their lives there, mistaking a ledge for a summit. The ones who break free reach the first number that actually matters. $100,000. A man named Charlie Munger, who became a billionaire, said the first 100,000 is the hardest thing in all of building wealth. Harder than the first million. And he was right, for a reason that is more psychological than financial. Up until 100,000, your net worth grows almost entirely from what you save. Your own effort, dollar by dollar, against a current that never stops. It is grinding, slow, and thankless, and most people quit somewhere in the middle of it, convinced it isn't working. But right around 100,000, something invisible flips. The amount your money earns on its own starts to rival the amount you can save. For years you were the entire engine, every dollar of growth coming from your own back. Now, quietly, a second engine switches on, one you didn't have to build and don't have to power, and it runs while you sleep. You wake up one day and notice your money earned more that month than your effort did. Nothing about your life looks different. But everything has changed because for the first time you are no longer the only thing moving you forward. And there's a psychological gift hidden in that 100,000 that no one tells you about. It is proof. Proof that the whole thing is real, that wealth was not a lie told to other people, that you specifically are capable of building it. That proof rewires something. The person who has saved $100,000 once knows, in their body, that they can do it again. And that knowing is worth more than the money. You cross into $250,000, then $500,000. Here the change is quieter but deeper. Money stops being something you think about constantly and starts becoming a background hum. You still work, still earn, but the panic is gone. In its place is something the broke version of you could never have imagined. Optionality. The sense that your life has doors in it. You could move. You could switch careers. You could weather a year of bad luck. Nothing is urgent because almost nothing is fatal anymore. And this is where money begins its strangest trick. The richer you get, the less each new dollar makes you feel. The jump from 0 to 10,000 changed your entire nervous system. The jump from $250,000 to $500,000 you barely feel at all. The fear it removes is fear you stopped having years ago. You are climbing a mountain where every step up delivers a little less view than the step before. Almost no one is warned about this, and so almost everyone at every level assumes the next number is the one that will finally feel like enough. It never is. The feeling was never in the number. Then you cross the line that the whole world treats as the finish line. $1 million. The first comma. The word millionaire, which carries more weight in the culture than almost any other word about money. You spent your whole life imagining this number as a door you'd walk through into a different life. And the strangest thing happens when you actually arrive. Feels like nothing. You refresh the account, watch it tick from 990-something thousand to 7 figures, and you wait to feel it. The feeling doesn't come. You make a coffee. You answer an email. You are the same person who went to sleep the night before in the same bed, with the same worries that were never really about money. The culture sold you a magic word, and the magic word turns out to be just a number with one more comma in it than it had yesterday. But while it changes little inside you, it changes a great deal around you. This is the level where other people start treating you differently, often before you've said a word. There is a respect, an assumption of competence, a benefit of the doubt that gets extended to the person known to have money. Doors open more easily. People listen a half-second longer. And it is intoxicating and a little sickening at once because you realize the respect was always available, it was just being withheld. And now it's being given for a reason that has nothing to do with who you are. And here the first real cost of wealth appears. Trust gets complicated. When you have money, you can never again be entirely sure why someone is in the room. The friend, the partner, the new acquaintance, the family member who calls more often now. Most of them are exactly who they seem. But the certainty is gone, and it does not come back. The richer you become, the smaller the circle of people whose love you can be completely sure of. Money buys you everything except the thing it quietly takes away, which is the simple, unguarded trust you had when you had nothing to take. You climb to $10 million. Now you are genuinely rich, not millionaire next door rich, but rich in a way that reorganizes your entire life. You don't think about prices anymore in the way a fish doesn't think about water. The mortgage, the car, the school, the vacation, none of it touches the sides. For most people, this is the literal ceiling of what they can imagine wanting. And it's here that the saddest pattern in all of wealth tends to show itself. Because the things that got you here, the hunger, the discipline, the drive, do not have an off switch. The same engine that built $10 million keeps running after the reason for running is gone. You meet people at this level who cannot stop, cannot rest, cannot enjoy what they built, because the part of them that needed to escape zero is still escaping zero decades later, long after the danger has passed. They are running from a wolf that died years ago, and no amount of money has ever once been able to call off that chase. Only self-awareness can, and self-awareness is the one thing money cannot buy. There's also a quieter loss here. The richer you get, the more the ordinary texture of life gets smoothed away. You stop standing in lines, stop fixing your own things, stop encountering the small frictions and small kindnesses that make up most of a human life. You float a half-inch above the world the rest of us walk on. Sounds like a dream, but the friction you're escaping is also where a lot of the connection lives, and people at this level often describe a strange, weightless loneliness they can't explain to anyone, least of all to people who'd kill to have their problems. And it reaches the people closest to you in ways you didn't sign up for. Your kids grow up never knowing the one thing that quietly built you, which was the absence of money, the hunger, the no's, the having to wait. You worked your whole life so they'd never feel what you felt, and in succeeding completely, you accidentally took from them the exact pressure that made you who you are. It's the oldest paradox of wealth, and it sits right here at 10 million. The struggle you escaped was also a teacher, and your children will have to find their own struggle somewhere, or grow up strangely soft in a way that worries you at night, in a house you bought specifically so they'd never have to worry about anything at all. And then, the top of the climb, $100 million. At this level, money has fully transformed into something most people never see it become. It is no longer money. It is power and influence, and the ability to bend pieces of the world to your will. You can start things, end things, fund things, move markets in small ways. The number is so large it stops being personal and becomes a kind of force you steward rather than spend. Almost no one reaches this rung. And the few who do almost universally report the same thing, the thing that should have been obvious from the very bottom of the climb but is impossible to believe until you've made the whole journey yourself. That past a surprisingly modest point, more money simply stopped buying more life. The 100th million bought nothing the 10th million hadn't already. The view from the top of the mountain is, it turns out, not that different from the view 2/3 of the way up, except for one thing. From the very top, you can finally see that you climbed past the best view a long time ago and didn't stop to look. So here is what the whole climb is really trying to teach you, and you don't have to reach 100 million to learn it. Every level removes a specific fear. 0 to 10,000 removes the fear of this week. 10,000 to 100,000 removes the fear of being trapped. 100,000 to 1,000,000 removes the fear of the future. And then, somewhere past 1,000,000, you run out of fears for money to remove, and the money keeps coming anyway, and it has nothing left to do for you. That is the level no one can see until they reach it. The level where more stops meaning better. The real skill was never climbing. Anyone hungry enough can climb. The real skill is knowing which rung was always going to be enough for you specifically, and having the wisdom to stand on it and finally look at the view, instead of spending your one life climbing past it toward a number that was never going to feel like anything at all. You are standing on one of these rungs right now. The only question that matters is not how to reach the next one. It's whether you've already passed the one that was always going to be enough. This is a story, not financial advice. But the rungs are real, and so is the view if you ever stop climbing long enough to see it.